nobody likes my 8 weeks of no bar on your back or in your hands rule. So we'll see how exactly that goes.
Yeah, and that's such a big factor. And I think if most people are listening to this or watching this are that beginner or intermediate level, and they're like, oh yeah, my off season's like a month, and then I do whatever. It's like you can't compare somebody at an advanced level to that. The majority of people.
Well, to me, the advanced lifter needs longer.
Absolutely,
because as McGill said, and as you said, it's the microfractures that we're really talking about here. And I always just saw it as just getting the bar off your back is going to allow this. When I first started having people do this, start doing it for myself, it was because of the shoulders.
Right.
Because they're just getting fucking destroyed these last few weeks. And it's like, I just need shit off of my shoulders. I don't want to be all cramped up under a bar. I don't want the shit in my hands when I'm benching. Just get this shit off of my shoulders and back.
Yep.
And just, you're going to get weak. You're going to do bodybuilding stuff, all the other. And then over time, the McGill, and then Brian, then it's, oh shit, yeah, there probably are a lot of microfractures in there that need to heal. And it's bones that need to heal. And obviously somebody that's lifting bigger weights, it's more advanced, is staying, I'm going to contradict myself, because the people that are staying in a better movement pattern should have less microfractures, but the load's going to be the issue.
Sure, right.
Where the beginner is going to be falling all over the place and accumulating more from that sense. But a phase of keeping the bar off your back is not a bad thing.
Right. I mean, especially if you're an advanced lifter that has been able to master the technique enough so you're more efficient. You're firing more efficiently, you're able to use more weight, and just the overall load that's going to be on your back throughout an entire training block is just going to be more, not just a top level weight or the top percentage, but even just everything else you do is going to be heavier and heavier and heavier than the majority of intermediate or beginner lifters. And that's the volume that really kicks the shit out of you. I mean, I'm feeling it right now in my shoulder, because now it's getting to the point where as soon as we start adding a ton of band tension, it's like, oh shit. Now that fatigue starts to set in.
But we're going to pivot too. So, I mean, that's
let's
part
talk
of
about
the conversation as well, is when we spoke a few podcasts ago about open and closed systems, it's an example of this being an open system.
Yep.
Is your shoulders getting, I don't want to say it's cramping. It's getting jacked up, but not long-term jacked up. And temporarily impinged, I guess, would be a way to explain that. So it's like a nerve thing. And there's definitely ways to go about changing that moving forward. If you were to stay multiply, we'd move hands out, there's things. But anyhow, it's there, right? And so when that starts, and with Adam, it's the bicepial tendonitis, when those start and it's this close to the meat, they're not going away. It's manageable. Like, there's different therapies and different things work for different people that can help. I don't want to say fix it, because I'm not a therapist at all. Yeah,
just mitigating, reducing.
For me, when it's me, I explain it to myself as I'm just masking this until the meat comes to where I can really go about resting it and letting it heal. Just a Band-Aid. Yes. So it's just masking to be able to get the work done that needs to get done. And one way about doing that is to just pivot it, so when it is shoulder bicep tendonitis and you're benching the next day, well, then the bench is taking a hit, because you really don't have enough time to recover totally. I mean, we know that going into it from the very beginning of just all training. You hope to get recovered as much as you possibly can within a 24-hour period. It's actually a little less than 24 hours. And being over 70%, if I'm just to throw loose numbers out there, is a good place to be. But now it starts to fall because of this. And then the bench training becomes non-optimal. So there's options on pivoting here. You can pivot the heavy bench to the middle of the week. So move a max effort bench with shirt stuff to the middle of the week. I don't necessarily think with this little time left that's the right move, because it takes some time to get acclimated to moving it that far, because now you're moving it several days.
All right.
To move it from Sunday to immediately after the squat on Saturday. So squat, then bench, and then move the speed pulls to Wednesday. That's a better pivot, which also allows for this habit's already been developed. We train on Sundays. So now there's still training on Sundays, but you guys will be like, fuck we supposed to do?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Like very fucking light dumbbell curls, recovery work.
Yeah.
So now you have active recovery that normally I guarantee is not in the program. Because most people, and this is not a discipline thing, it's just what most people decide. Most people, given the choice of not doing anything on an off day or active recovery, are going to just do nothing or just walk and do something like that. They're not going to go into a gym and just do light work to be able to move. They're just not.
Right.
That's not everybody. Some will. In my experience, 90% are not. So how do you put it in there in such a way that falls within the emotional habits that have already been put in there? So it's a pivot.
And another thing about if you were to do, max effort work during the week, it's a different type of day, right? It goes from you're working all day, you've eaten a couple times, but you're not really focused in on training. It's like there's other things going on. And then you roll into the gym 5, 6 o'clock at night, and it's like, whew, like the energy level isn't nearly as there.
There's also, say a week is a microcycle. So there's also microcycle recovery factors we need to take into mind, where Wednesday and Thursday during the week they're pretty fucking easy.
Oh yeah.
It's just accessory work. It's so now we have from Sunday until Saturday being pretty much just easy chill time. And now we throw a max effort thing right in the middle of that. That's a big disruption. Right in the middle of calm waters. So you got calm waters, now you're going to drop a fucking cannonball. So, that becomes an issue. Now moving the speed pulls, which is light, it's not that demanding, and it's distraction of the shoulders. Yeah. Right? And it's not heavy enough to really compress the back with you guys that much because it's 50%. It's not. So now we add in a distraction type thing for the area, the biceps, the shoulders, during the middle of that calm water, to maybe lower the water a little bit, instead of dropping in a fucking cannonball. Right. And this would be a different scenario if it was 8 weeks out. I know we're in a peaking phase right now. So peaking phases are more about moving things off the program than trying to put shit into different places and that kind of stuff, making it easier to recover from.
And the point of a peaking phase is that we're looking for that fatigue. We're not looking for injury, but we're looking for that fatigue. We're looking to maximize the amount of fatigue so we can recover from it without putting ourselves in a position where it's too much to recover from. Right?
Yes, exactly.
And I think a lot of people have a tendency to, I don't know how many people on here are actually competitive, but when you're, even for strongman, like when I was peaking for a meet or a contest, it was fucking terrible. Like you get to the point where you're like, is this shit done? Yeah. Like I'm sick of doing this. Because now everything is so specific, right? Everything is so contest specific or meet specific. It's like, I'm fucking sick of benching and squatting and deadlifting with a straight bar.
And it's all the nicks and dings, the shin splints and hands and shoulder. I mean, all that trap neck, all that shit, it just lingers during that time. Right. And it's that feeling of, you can tell people that compete versus don't compete in what term of like their season they're on. It's because if they're like, I love this is so, I love training. Yeah. Versus it's like, I'm fucking done. I'm fucking done with this. This sucks. Give me a fucking yoke bar in a box. Like I don't really need anything else. But that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to after this is that time away to really work on shit I'm bad at in new ways, right? Yeah. It's like I told Adam, I go, man, I'm going to fuck you up with a sandbag after this. Right, he'll have He's gonna, But yeah, no, it's that seasonality. I think it's so important to illustrate and to kind of talk about, because you just can't, and we've said it multiple times, you can't just hammer the gas over and over. I mean, when you go back to some of the first conversations we had about programming, all that was, I look at 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Now, if people have been listening to these conversations that we've had over these last several podcasts, now you can see why. Because you can't just, okay, I'm going to do this meet. Okay, when's the next one? Okay, 12, 16 weeks out. No, you're a fucking idiot.
No, you need that fluidity.
You have to look at this from a longer term perspective. Optimally, you'd have somebody look at it as, I plan on doing this for 10 years.
Right.
And then be done.
The more time, the better, because it allows you to make better choices and you don't feel so compressed to do so many meets or so many contests in a short amount of time. When that was one of the worst things, see, it's both sides. I see both sides of this. When you're a newer competitor in something, it's like you want to compete to get the experience, but at the same time, you're not really peaking. You're not really preparing as well as you would.
They're not lifting enough.
Exactly.
So they're not straining enough to have a recovery problem. They're not strong enough to have a recovery problem. It's just, I don't know how else to go about explaining it, but there's that point where that hits.
Yeah.
Where it happens, and to go even further down a strength athlete's career, there's also the big phases. Here's this, I don't want to say beginner, intermediate, advanced, but here's the first third of your competitive life. Here's the middle third, which is the biggest weights are probably going to be lifted.
Yep.
And then here's the last third where you're going to be hanging on. At some point, you just got to walk away.
Yeah.
And those times need to be approached differently with the way the training is. So that first third, you can compete more frequently. You can do a lot of those things. That middle third, you got to compete more strategically, right? Because where's the competitive? That's going to be your prime, per se. So what do you want to do? Like, you're doing it for you, or are you doing it to compete against other people? You're doing it for rank. What's going on here? What do you want to do?